Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us. And we're happy to be guesting today with Johnathan Giroux, the chair of the St. Albans Town Selectboard. Johnathan, good to see you.
Good morning.
Thanks for jumping into the fray here. I should note we're taping the show on Wednesday, December 14th, in case anybody's watching the show in the future and if there was some big issue that came up in the town that we didn't talk about. So taping the show on Wednesday, December 14th. Well, Johnathan, not too much going on in the town, pretty quiet. I'm kind of kidding. Sounds like a lot going on. I guess the big news is you're finally into the new town hall. I can only assume that was very good news for yourself and the staff. Anyway, but of course the old Public Works garage is pretty close. So is the thinking that you could park folks over there, or you just wouldn't anticipate parking being an issue much?
No, so the project team anticipated having overflow parking at the old DPW site.
Okay.
There is kind of like a stone walkway through there. I don't believe that's completed, but that was another thing that's kind of, let's get the building going, let's get everything working, and then we can work on these little projects after.
Yeah. And of course the water issue was the thing that just kind of put you back some months. So that was resolved at whatever
Yeah,
cost?
it was resolved. It just, the board felt that it had to do its due diligence and, go down every avenue. Whether it was drilling a new well, we tested a couple neighboring wells just to see what the gallons per minute were.
Yeah.
The first one didn't pass gallon per minute, so we went to the second one. The salinity was right at the EPA limit. So we were told from Dave Chevalier that the salinity could go up and then you might need a RO system anyways. So he said, well, instead of doing all the infrastructure to the neighboring well and then have to pay for that, why don't we just put the RO in like we talked about? So that's what we did. So that's why it took a little bit of time to get through that process, but at least we can say we did it and there was really no other avenue for getting water to the building.
And again, I think we talked about it before. That came as did that come as a big surprise? Did that just kind of come out of the blue? Was there any earlier concern that the water might be an issue?
I didn't know nothing about salinity in the water. Like, I deal with quite a bit of water throughout that area. And I don't know if it's a newer test that they're doing, but like I know the Bayside has an RO system in it.
Yeah.
Now that, because they actually sold the first one to the Bayside, but there's a few wells around that have that problem, I guess.
Yeah. Anyway, but you did come in, and budget-wise, again, worth mentioning again, we're talking no property taxes to fund the new town hall, correct?
That's right.
Pretty much LOT, the
LOT
local
money,
option tax.
we took out a small loan, but it's to be paid back with the LOT money, so this won't come out of the general fund.
So no property tax money?
No property tax money for this project, correct.
Well, anyway.
And the budget, it came in, it's right at there. There's
and
still
what was the overall price tag for this?
It was close to I think it was just under $5 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And I know you've been trying to get comments from the public, getting some comments about what the public might like to see with the now former town hall. Boy, I think that's going to be a tough sell for somebody. Or any early indications, any early interest in the old town hall?
Yeah, so we had 2 public hearings so far. We have one person that really interested in it and doing a daycare in the building. And some of the other stuff is kind of ideas floating around, nothing really solid. And but the last meeting, our assessor did an assessment of the building and what possibilities could go in there, and there was something in there where potentially you could increase the wastewater to like 700 gallons a day. Right now, I think it's at like 400 gallons a day.
Well, that doesn't sound like a lot.
It's not, but if you're like office space and stuff like that, it's probably doable. But to do like 6 apartments in that building probably isn't feasible due to the wastewater limitations.
Yeah.
But
hopefully, boy, an old building. I mean, it's served the town very well, obviously, but we're talking how late 1800s for that building? Is that?
Yes, I think that's right. Yeah.
Boy, it goes back well. It's really served the town well, but you folks have to be happy to be in your new building.
Yeah. So We're actually, I believe, last time I talked to Carrie, we're gonna turn the heat off on the upper floors
Huh.
and leave the heat on in the basement.
Oh, yeah.
And then, so the foundation doesn't freeze, because if your foundation freezes, frost can move the walls and stuff can happen.
But there'll be no use. There'll be
nothing, no use.
No use out of
It'll
it.
be vacant, yeah.
Interesting. Speaking of Carrie Johnson, your longtime town manager, as you know, in the news, of course, had announced her retirement, I guess, at some point earlier this year for next year. And that's still on track, and in fact, you're getting some media attention now, having, I guess, formally started the search for a new town manager.
Yeah, so we put out a RFP, and 3 companies got back to us with their proposals on how they're gonna do their hiring.
Yeah.
There was GovHR, the local company, 44/7 Strategies, and Brigham LLC. And the other one was VLCT.
Oh.
And we actually went with the cheaper of the bids for the hiring search. And
is that Corey Parents?
that's Corey
company?
Parents, 44/7 Strategy.
Okay.
Strategies, and Alex Brigham was Brigham LLC.
Okay. So you're doing both of those, or
Well, they're together. They're
they're
working
together.
together. Yeah, Alex
Okay.
is kind of the HR.
okay?
He has the HR experience.
That's
So
right.
we sat down with them. We got the pamphlet, little brochure out, and Corey's been working on that. So I guess there's been a few applicants already, but any other details on that?
Yeah. Of
They
course,
haven't
Corey
shared with us.
Perrin, your former Director of Operations, outgoing Franklin County State Senator. Corey in his last weeks as a
Yeah.
state senator. And I might have mentioned this last time we talked, but I would have almost bet my life that Corey would have been Carrie Johnson's successor. I guess that does beg my question, with Corey part of the search for a new town manager. Is it conceivable? Could he end up being a candidate for town manager?
No, I don't think so.
Sounds a little awkward.
Yeah, no, I don't. No,
not
he's
happening.
no. I think he's pretty comfortable where he is.
Okay.
I think one of the biggest things, and Corey brought it to my attention. He goes, "You're working for the select board, and it changes.
Yeah.
So you might have a good 2-year period, but you could
Yeah.
go through a stretch where it's not, depending on who you get on the board,
Yeah.
and if they want to work with you,
Yeah.
Because the town managers running the town, we basically just set the policy
Sure.
for them to run. Like
Town
it's-
manager's obviously the key
yeah,
person.
and it's
But I know
hard.
you guys do plenty of work yourselves.
It's hard for the select board members to, get over that
Yeah.
boundaries or so.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can make it. The town manager needs to do their job. Like you can't make them. You can't restrict their ability to do their jobs. They got
Yeah.
to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Because they run all the employees and everything. So if you got a
Sure.
good town manager, like
Sure.
it works out for everyone.
Sure. And I'd say St. Albans City, I think, for the average, of course, Dominic Cloud, the St. Albans City manager, I think the average for our managers maybe, I'm just guessing, maybe like 5 years or something. I think Dominic's into double figures, but and I think is held in very high regard by the city council and stuff. But
Right.
he's certainly lasted a lot longer than the average time. And we're talking about Carrie Johnson. Carrie, of course, has the records at which she keeps setting every day as the longest town manager for the town. But no, you're right, absolutely key position.
Yeah.
But and I know, I guess in the ad, it sounds like the town's got a lot going for it, but obviously you're hopeful to get a good person for a community that seems to be making some pretty good progress.
Yeah, because we got a lot going on. We got
Yeah.
some industrial zones that keep growing. We just had Beta, moving
Oh,
the
big.
Energizer plant. That's huge
Very,
in itself.
well, that's the biggest economic news
Yeah.
around here in years, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
The old Energizer plant.
Yeah. So there's just a bunch of growth happening. There's talk about some health paths going in, one from Collins Purley
Yeah.
over towards the hospital and connecting with the rail trail.
Yeah.
So that's still an ongoing avenue that we're looking at also. So
What
there's a
about, it
bunch-
came up for a vote on, speaking about rec paths or sidewalks, whatever, from Satec to Collins Purley. And at one point, I think that even came up for a vote and was shot down. But is there still some talk about trying to get a path from Satec to Collins Purley?
So the state is now just like
Because you had the problem crossing whatever they call the road coming in from the
the
exit.
sash, right?
Yeah.
So they were talking, the state reached out to us and said, hey, we're going to be redoing the intersection, that four-way intersection right there out in front of Collins Pearlie and stuff, so
Yeah,
I think Carrie and Dave Allerton, the new DPW director,
Yeah.
attended the meeting, and we told them, like, well, add this concern of, like, because they wanted to put a crosswalk in from, like, the Jolly Store to Collins Pearlie, like, see if we can incorporate,
yeah,
you know, if the state's redoing a major intersection, let's see if we can incorporate a couple projects into that also, so that
Yeah.
Carrie's actually working on that too,
Yeah.
so.
no, it sounds like you have plenty of stuff. I know there's been some talk with the location of the town fire department on Lake Road.
Mhm.
Some talk about maybe needing or wanting to do maybe a satellite station on the north end of town. Does that come up at all?
We haven't talked about that recently.
Yeah.
I think when Brendan was chair, we discussed it a little bit, but nothing. I don't think you're gonna see it anytime soon. But,
Is that right?
yeah,
Town fire department in pretty good shape, staffing wise.
they're still understaffed like every other
Boy, it sounds
department
like
in the
everybody
state.
is, huh?
They're down into the lower 20s last time I talked to the chief.
What was your peak? Do you know the?
It was up in the 30s.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
and so, but they seem to get by, you know. But you know, I think right now we pay them $18 an hour
Yeah.
for the volunteer to show up. Like,
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
So they get something.
So they get something, you know,
Yeah.
as qualified firefighter for $18
Yeah.
an hour, I think is a pretty good benefit.
Yeah. Boy, I guess some tough time a couple of weekends ago. Boy, a real spate of fires on a Friday night into Saturday morning, mostly in the city. I'm sure the town FD was some of the folks were helping
Oh,
out
yeah.
with that.
Yeah,
Sounds like that was a pretty tough night.
Yeah, I'm sure that was hard on all the departments
Yeah.
around Franklin County.
Yeah.
'Cause it seemed like there was a
And
lot
I think
that
Swanton had
responded.
some fires too, about the same time.
Yeah.
Talking about what to do with the old town hall, we'll see about that. What about the old town public works garage site, Johnathan? Some talk about maybe getting another boat access in there. Any hard info on that?
Yeah, so the planning commission is working on a plan what to do with that property.
Yeah.
They keep mentioning like a kayak launch. I'm not really sold on the kayak launch thing. I mean,
No.
we got the whole Bay Park you could potentially use as a kayak launch.
Yeah.
The biggest issue I think is the dredging that was brought up. But I did hear the other day, and I got to speak to the town manager about it, that somebody else in the bay has applied for a permit for dredging
Oh, really?
to put in their own boat launch.
Oh, really? And
So-
not the marina folks, apparently?
I don't
Oh,
know
no?
at this point. I caught wind of it, so I'm not going to spread rumor who
Sure.
it might or might not be. But
Yeah.
if that's the case, we could probably work together, maybe.
Huh.
You know, and if we have to dredge to get a boat launch in there, I think it'd be beneficial.
Interesting. Do you know, have the marina folks, have they been okay with the lake level? Has that been a problem for them, do you know?
I talk to Chuck quite often, and he hasn't said anything. I think some of the inner slips they put in wave runner or
Oh, yeah.
jet skis, so
Huh.
I don't think they need much water. But I think other than that, it's been pretty successful down
Yeah.
there.
Doesn't look like they had a busier summer. Looked like they were in pretty good shape this last summer.
Yeah, I would say it's probably the busiest of the.
But again, right where the former Public Works garages, I would need dredging. I mean, it's just pretty low level, just kind of right on where the
Well,
lake is there. Or?
That's what I don't know if it's speculative, but that's everybody's saying. Like, I've been in there, I've been
Yeah.
fishing a bunch of times, and
Yeah.
like if you get towards August when the lake level's down to 94, 95,
Yeah,
it's only
it
2 or
gets
3
down
feet
there.
of water.
I hate it. I'd kill for a relatively high lake level. Obviously not flooding, but I'd kill for because I keep kayaks near Kilcare.
Yeah.
But geez, it can get pretty grungy at the end of the summer with the
Yeah,
low
yeah,
lake
yeah,
level.
yeah, yeah.
I think it's up now to about 96 feet,
Yeah.
which is maybe a little below average. You know, it's funny. I keep a weather log. I pay a lot of attention to the weather, but this might surprise some. It always seems like it's too dry around here. I'd always take more rain, but Burlington is going to end the year with at least average precip.
Wow.
And of course, especially summertime, you can get really localized precip, you know. Some place might get a couple of inches and a nearby town might not get that thunderstorm, but
Right.
maybe a surprise to me anyway. Burlington will be at least average precip for this year, which in Burlington's case is about 37 inches or so. Obviously an average of rain and melted snow.
Right.
But anyway, but I'll always take rain. It just always seems like, especially summers, get a little too dry.
Yeah,
around
it seems
here.
like the falls in the past years, like we haven't had the rain.
Yeah.
Like, because we used to do some waterfowl hunting up in the refuge, and I think
Yeah.
it was 2011 was the last time we really
Of course,
had
that
a
was
good water
that
year.
was a serious flood year.
That was the
Record
serious
high
flood
level.
year, but you
Yeah.
know, sometimes we'd get the 97-foot mark in past years, but I don't think we've hit 97 feet in a fall for
I'd say
since
you're
then.
probably right about that. So town meeting day. So you're up at town meeting coming up on 2023. Yourself and Brendan Deso, the
Correct.
two select board members, and you're looking to. I think you're gonna run again.
Yeah, I got my petition. I'm gonna run
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
But
And-
see, I don't know yet.
Yeah, we'll see about Brendan, but so budget work obviously carries, and the select board obviously have gotten started on budget work for the next fiscal year. Johnathan, has that started in earnest at this point?
Yes,
Yeah.
we're on draft 3. I just kind
Oh,
of
really?
reviewed it again this morning.
Huh.
As you know, everything has gone up. I mean, from the healthcare,
Yeah,
salaries.
yeah,
We're actually going to increase Chief Cross came to us with some increases in the fire department, which I think we need just to retain the help because
Yeah.
he really can't afford to lose anybody.
yeah. Equipment wise for the fire department, seems like you guys have been pretty good about keeping up with equipment. Are you in pretty good shape?
Yeah, the chief really keeps up on that. There's that reserve.
In fact, is there usually
we
a separate
voted on
line item that?
Yeah, we voted on, so it's I think it's 10 or 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
But we keep putting money, and he's got his truck schedule, his replacement schedule worked into that, and I think we're pretty good.
Yeah. Interesting. But budget, as you say, I mean, geez, I love folks saying, hey, gee, inflation, what last February, December, I guess November was officially nationwide 7.1%. Everybody's saying, hey, great, it's getting down. That's still pretty high inflation number, but
Right.
yeah, that's got to be affecting, obviously, everybody, everything.
Yeah, I just, like I said, I looked at it again, and, we're looking at, over $500,000 increase in the budget.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's just,
Huh.
where do you can only cut so much.
Yeah,
And we did talk about equalizing the rate for the day use of the pool. Like, we talked
Huh.
about adding some money to see, if we put like $40,000, how far it would get us, because we didn't really know when we discussed it last year.
again, to
'Cause-
make it equal for town residents as city residents for what it costs to.
Yeah, so like
Yeah.
Georgia, I think.
Georgia threw in some money for
threw some
that.
money, so we're gonna kind of, potentially, we talked about doing the same thing.
Right.
Because you gotta invest in your kid, and we've got a little bit of feedback on, you should have the day pass rates equalized.
Yeah.
So that's one of my goals, is try to get that into the budget this year.
Yeah. Anything out of the ordinary coming up for March town meeting for the town, Johnathan? Any issues, any kind of big ticket issues?
I don't believe so.
Yeah,
Nothing at this point,
interesting.
yeah.
And the LOT, which you talked about, local option tax, but what is the town, what do you get for a year for that? Is
It's
that,
just over $1 million.
Is it really?
Yeah.
and is that of course, the state gets what, I think a third or a quarter of
A
that?
third.
Okay,
yeah.
but that's a pretty good hunk of money.
Yeah, that helps. That helps
Yeah,
for sure.
Obviously, as noted with the new town hall, and
Yeah.
for that matter, the new public works
Public
garage.
Works garage, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we only have about 250,000 of that every year allocated, and that's
Yeah.
for the new town hall.
Yeah.
For the next 10 years on that, I believe. Yeah, 10 years.
New public works garage, has that worked out well? Any problems with your new public works garage on Brigham
No,
Road?
everything's been good. Couple issues
Yeah.
with the salt shed, but that's,
Yeah.
just nothing we can't get through.
Yeah. You're down a road foreman, you're after also a road foreman at this point, huh?
Yep. Carrie's currently looking for a road foreman,
Right.
and she's got a few applications. So we're down to 5 plow guys. Typically, we have 6
Typically
plow
6.
truck drivers.
Huh.
So they rearranged the routes a little bit, and it seems to be working after the last little bit of snow we got.
Yeah.
But-
Interesting. Boy, it sounds like staffing, sounds like just about everybody's got staffing issues. Aside from that, pretty stable town staff, you're doing okay. Of course, you got a new town manager you're looking for, but does the town staffing tend to be pretty stable? course,
It
you have a
seems
new,
like it-
Dave Allerton, of course, took over as the new PW director not too long ago.
Right. It seems like this past year, of course, it's an employees market, right?
Boy, you
You know,
think so?
The store Emily,
Yeah.
our past stormwater coordinator, she actually
Yeah.
went to work for Middlebury.
Just got a pretty nice job, I guess.
Yeah, and she lives right there in Moncton, and
Wow.
I guess that was her dream job. It was
Boy, so she was
stormwater.
commuting from Moncton?
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty tough commute.
Up here and right there, I
Wow.
think that drive for her would have been like 20 minutes instead of like an hour
Oh,
plus.
geez, can't blame
So-
her for that, sounds like.
Yeah, you can't, a
Sorry.
lot of people look in, they say, oh, they keep losing employees. It's like,
Yeah,
this isn't like 20 years ago where, people
yeah,
there's not a lot of applicants out there.
yeah. Have you replaced her? Is there a new stormwater?
So right now, we're using a firm that takes care of just the stormwater end of
Yeah,
for the town. Dave Allerton's working on a plan to take that back over, because and pretty soon we're gonna be looking for a new stormwater coordinator.
yeah. City-town relations seem like they haven't been exactly the warmest for a while. Interviewed Tim Smith yesterday, the St. Albans mayor, and I just said probably the same thing, and he said, there's been some discussion with the town. He didn't elaborate on anything, but anyway. But it sounds like, relations have been a little tough on some fronts, but anyway. But maybe better things in the future, but he just said there's been some communication and just stopped there.
Yeah. I think there's some things happening that are gonna be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm optimistic about it.
And I know there've been, in the past, maybe not many, but every once in a while, the city council and town select board would sit down together. I don't think that's happened for years. Of course,
No.
the pandemic probably didn't help. That'd be a good thing to do once in a while.
Yeah, we talked about that. I gotta bring that back up to the board. We talked
Yeah.
about that maybe a couple months ago. But, I gotta talk to the board about doing it for sure.
Yeah, but that doesn't sound like a crazy idea, does it?
No.
I think Swanton's been pretty good about that. Of course, Swanton Village, an incorporated village in the town of Swanton, different situation. They're not two separate municipalities like St. Albans City and Town are. But I think the Swanton Select Board and Swanton Village trustees get together periodically. They seem to do pretty well. Although, again, somewhat different situation.
Yeah, the last one with the city and town was probably like 3 years ago.
Well, that was a while
before
ago, I
was on the
suspect.
board, But I
Yeah.
went to it. I remember going.
Yeah. Pandemic, any lasting effects? Seems like we never totally get past the pandemic, Johnathan, but is that pretty much in the past? I mean, select board meetings, regular meetings now, these are in-person meetings and have been for a while.
And we still
Do you
offer
still do Zoom?
We still do Zoom, just
Yeah.
because it's some people, life's so busy. And
Yeah,
it's hard for people to, drive down there, whatever.
Yeah.
They can do it. They can just turn it on their phone and just at
Yeah.
least listen.
Yeah.
You don't have to actively participate, but you can listen to what's going on.
do you know, can you tell how many people are doing that, or you have no?
Yeah, we got the screen up. We can
Yeah.
tell. Usually it's just my wife that tunes in.
Yeah,
That's about it.
that's right, but they have the option anyway.
Yeah. At least
But
the
typically at a
options.
selectman, unless there's some hot issue once in a while, a few people show up for regular select board meetings, but,
There's-
sometimes nobody.
No, there's a few people that live in the Bay that attend
Right.
when we talk about, the old town hall, future of, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But usually, nah.
Yeah,
I wish more people would get involved.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. Well, again, 2 seats up on the select board. We'll see if anybody else jumps into the fray. There's certainly been talk, you're looking into at least a possibility of a wastewater facility, I guess, especially in St. Albans Bay. That's still getting some attention. Is that a possibility?
Yeah. So we're still waiting. We're doing I think it's called a feasibility study.
Yeah,
And a cost for what we could do in the Bay. How far can we out? Can we go way out on Hathaway Point with it?
yeah,
That was a firm that did some work. I can't recall the name right now. It was a firm that did some work with the Village of Montgomery. They did their wastewater stuff.
Yeah.
We put out an RFP, went through the process, and then they came in. They had the best budget for the project, for the engineering and feasibility study. So
yeah,
we're still waiting to get all those answers back. But of course, it takes some time to do something
yeah.
of that. you know.
But if you're going to do that anywhere in St. Albans Town, St. Albans Bay would be the obvious place, or the...
Well, yeah, because when we talked about it as a board, I think probably like over a year ago now,
Yeah.
we said, well, what do we want to do? You know, where do we want to, do we want to focus on the south end with infrastructure, which we have some out there already? Well, technically, I think the city owns it, but, or the north end, or where do we want to go? And then we talked about, well, they did do the village designation for the bay.
Right.
So we said, well, if we're going to do that, why don't we just try to see what municipal water and sewer would be?
Yeah, interesting. So that's still getting some attention.
Yeah, yeah. Does,
Of course, we have a new sheriff coming in. Not too much controversy about the sheriff's department situation, but Roger Langevin, Franklin County Sheriff, retiring in the not too distant future. But of course, the sheriff's department is still covering the town. Are you pretty satisfied with the coverage you're getting from the sheriff's department at this point?
yeah, seems pretty good. I
Yeah.
know Carrie's in close contact with the sheriff,
Yeah,
and we had a couple concerns recently, but just as far as speeding in certain areas,
yeah,
and she called him up, and he redirects his patrols to certain
Really?
areas. He's very responsive to that
Yeah.
stuff. Does a good job.
yeah. Boy, I'm going back maybe a good 5 years or so, but I've got a good friend who I play tennis with. He used to live right in the heart of the bay. He would just tell Richard, you can't believe the morning traffic down here, the speeding. Went down with him one morning just to observe it, and I think did one of my messenger columns on it. I think Sheriff Norris was the sheriff at that point, but yeah, I was struck on, it was just a real speeding issue. So stuff like that comes up. Speeding, I know the folks in Swanton just go crazy about speeding. That seems like just a big complaint that maybe everybody has.
Yeah. Oh well, the biggest thing with speeding, I think the best way to curb it is to
Yeah.
get the officers out and
Yeah.
on patrol. Whether or not
Yeah,
you pull every car over, but at least if you get someone out there,
yeah,
they know that okay, there's this is the area being patrolled. It slows people down.
yeah.
Like, but then it's a money thing. Like, how much does the town want to?
Sure.
You got to keep everybody safe, but
Yeah.
it's
At what cost?
our police contract is over $1 million.
Really?
Like 1.3, I think it's
Wow.
up to.
Yeah, that's obviously a very significant issue.
Yeah.
We're down to under 2 minutes. Anything I haven't asked you about, and do you want to spend a little time on? Any subject that come? Nothing jumps at you.
Nothing really jumping. We touched on a lot of it.
Yeah. What about ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act money? Do you know how much the town? You remember what the town got,
I
Johnathan?
think it was just over 2 million.
Really?
I think we had our first public hearing on that
Huh.
a few weeks back.
Yeah.
There was talk about dumping the money into the old town hall to fix it up for a community center.
Huh.
That was probably the only.
Oh, is that right? So some talk about a community center for the old
Yeah,
town hall.
there's some talk.
Interesting.
Somebody wants a community center that the town should facilitate
Huh.
and stuff like that. But I don't know if that's feasible at this point.
Yeah, and I think you still have some time. The deadline for spending that money is still like a year or two down the road.
Yeah, yeah. So whether or not we spend it on the wastewater system in the bay,
Right.
there's that health path stuff, and there's a couple other smaller little projects that
Yeah.
we could do. But
No, it sounds like you got some projects that might take some of that money.
right, but we also have some projects that we need to get shovel ready also. So when money like this comes out, we can just say, here we go, we can do this.
Yeah.
Anyway. There's that too.
Anyway, that's gonna just about do it for us. So certainly, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to folks out there. Hopefully, everybody will have a safe Christmas. Looking a little more like winter these days, but
Feels
anyway. But appreciate the time. Again, talking to Johnathan Giroux, the St. Albans Town Select Board Chairman. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. Thanks for watching us on Northwest Access TV, and thanks for producer Hunter Denal for his efforts. See you next time.